She's been living in her car for nearly 2 months because she can't afford a place to live.
So we're going to ignore these stupid white hippies that all need to go home and take a nap because they're all over 90 years old.
Residents say the power went out around bedtime last night and it got hot fast.
Economists are saying electricity prices are climbing more than twice as fast as inflation is.
In this video, we're going to examine a truth that I think a lot of us are feeling right now. America is already in a state of collapse. I'm going to reveal 5 indicators that I'm seeing and that you're probably already feeling in your own life. Collapse is rarely a single sudden event such as a war or a market crash. And these moments are only punctuation marks in a much larger systematic failure. More often, the collapse of a nation is a slow decline that really seeps into daily life through higher prices, political gridlock, and a growing loss of trust in institutions. And you may already be experiencing and seeing this, even if you haven't really given it a name yet. The harsh reality is that the United States is already in the early stages of collapse, and survival, it really depends on not waiting for sudden unity or a return to stability. I'll also share what we're working on as a team to help people prepare, and I'll give you the details on how to enter this week's giveaway as well as announce last week's winner. So let's start unpacking this. If you're new to this channel, my name is Chris, and on this channel we discuss emergency preparedness, aka prepping. Now, I'm going to tell you up front that I try to present the news on this channel in as calm of an approach as possible, but as a team, we sat down this week and we made a decision to try and really pull back for a moment and look at what's happening right in front of us and honestly acknowledge what many of us are already seeing playing out in real time around us. To really understand what collapse truly looks like, it really helps to peel back the illusion of suddenness and consider the slow grinding forces at work beneath the surface. And most people, they don't do that. And the fact is that history has already given us a blueprint for collapse. When we look back at Rome, for instance, it is really tempting to see its fall as sudden, brought down by invading armies or a single disastrous moment. But the reality is much different. Rome unraveled over centuries through poor harvests, famines, political corruption, wars, and social unrest that really chipped away year after year. And from our vantage point today, time really compresses those centuries into a story of sudden downfall, but the people living through it, they experience a slow decline over multiple generations that must have just felt ordinary at times. Rome, it still exists on the same land, but it is wholly different from its ancient roots. Life continued, but it was transformed. In the same way, the United States is undergoing a similar unraveling. The signs, they're here, so let's look at them one at a time and discuss solutions. Political breakdown. The first sign of collapse is political breakdown. American politics has always been contentious, but in the past, guardrails like checks and balances, institutional norms, and a shared respect for democracy kept the system from veering too far off course. Rivals clashed bitterly, but they did not routinely demonize or dehumanize one another. Even during moments of unrest, such as the Bonus Army's March on Washington in 1932, Americans were still bound by a shared identity. Today, that cohesion is gone. The political system, it is paralyzed by division, trust in government has fallen to historic lows, and with only 1 in 5 Americans saying they trust it most of the time. And opponents are no longer viewed as rivals, with different opinions, but as existential threats to the nation. Polls reveal majorities of Republicans and Democrats see the other side in deeply hostile terms, leaving little room for compromise and pushing the government into constant brinkmanship. For everyday Americans, the political breakdown manifests as endless gridlock, budget standoffs, angry confrontations at school board meetings, and neighbors divided against one another. And politics has been weaponized to the point that compromise is nearly impossible, raising the risk that today's disputes are going to harden into entrenched conflicts tomorrow. And what we're witnessing is far more than partisan bickering. It's a profound breakdown of trust, norms, and institutions that really threaten the country's ability to function cohesively. America's political system is showing the same widening cracks that marked other nations in decline. This fracture in our political fabric is the first and most visible sign that collapse is already underway. So what does this mean to us? Political breakdown is not just something happening in Washington. It's already reaching into our lives. Think about who in your own circle has become a political casualty. Was it a neighbor you no longer speak to, a friend or family member you've lost, or a school board member or local official that you no longer trust? And these fractures, they really weaken the very communities that we depend on when larger systems fail. The choice before us is whether we get pulled deeper into cultural wars that divide or to put energy into building trust and resilience where we are living. And you may not see tanks in the streets, but you probably already feel the weight of these divisions in daily life. And we can't really fix politics at a national level, but we can invest in our families, strengthen local ties, and create communities that endure. And to avoid being dragged down into the inevitable collapse, I would encourage you to ensure that you're building networks independent of political party identities or stances. So what do you think? Is the political divide too great, too large to overcome? Do you agree it's a big flashing warning sign of a larger collapse? Let us know your thoughts in the comments section below. This YouTube ad-free video is sponsored by Jackery. When the power goes out, the first concern for many of us is usually the food in the refrigerator. Just a few hours without electricity can mean spoiled groceries, wasted money, and added stress. The Jackery HomePower 3000 was designed to prevent that. As part of Jackery's essential home backup system, it keeps your refrigerator running for up to 2 full days, protecting your food, reducing waste, and giving your family peace of mind. With 3,600 watts of continuous output and a 3,072 watt-hour capacity, it does more than keep your refrigerator cold. It can power kitchen appliances like coffee makers or microwaves, keep your Wi-Fi and lights on, and even support critical medical equipment. And unlike gas generators, there's no fuel, fumes, or noise. It's a plug-and-play solution. Just connect your essentials and you're ready. The HomePower 3000 is also compact and portable, the world's smallest 3 kilowatt-hour lithium iron phosphate generator with a 10-plus year lifespan. It's easy to move, store, and even bring along in an RV or on a camping trip. Pair it with Jackery's Solar Sega panels, and you'll have clean, renewable power that lasts for as long as you need. Stay prepared, keep your food safe, and power through outages with confidence. Check out the Jackery HomePower 3000 through the link below. Economic strains. The second sign of collapse is economic strain. Official reports indicate that the economy is stable, with inflation currently hovering around 2.7% as of July 2025. But those numbers do not reflect the reality that most of us are living in. You probably felt it on your last trip to the grocery store, where the cart holds less but the bill is higher, or when filling your gas tank costs more than you expected. And wages have not kept pace with the rising cost of food, housing, healthcare, and energy. Essentials consume a larger share of the household budgets while savings accounts remain thin. Nearly half of Americans have reported that they would struggle to cover an unexpected $500 expense, and credit card debt has reached record highs. That means millions of families are only one minor emergency away from financial crisis. Inflation may look modest on paper, but the reality is unmistakable at the checkout line or at the pump. Families stretch paychecks further, delay medical visits, or rely on debt to get by. And the result is a population that feels squeezed, exhausted, and less able to adapt when new shocks hit. Economic strain also deepens inequality. The wealthy and large corporations, they can shield themselves through assets and investments, while middle and lower income families really shoulder the heaviest burdens. That inequality breeds resentment and it fuels unrest, weakening the very fabric that holds communities together. And we're seeing this frustration build in America. Some analysts even warn that unchecked debt, risky derivatives, and limitless government spending could trigger a financial crisis larger than 2008, one that erodes trust in the dollar and drives people into hard assets like housing and gold, creating short-term surges but long-term instability. Now, that being said, how many Americans can pivot into hard assets like gold or housing to ride out a deep, deep decline? Can you? We've seen periods of strains before in America, from the oil shock to the 1970s to the Great Recession of 2008. And in those moments, the economy eventually recovered and trust in institutions was restored. But what makes today different is that the strain is compounding alongside political division, supply chain fragility, and global instability. And there's really no single recovery point on the horizon, only a steady erosion of resilience. History has shown that economic fragility is one of the clearest warning signs of decline. And beneath the calm face of official statistics lies a painful reality for millions of Americans. And this time, it may not be just another cycle. It may be a sign that we are already in the midst of a broader collapse. So what does this mean to us? Economic strain is something that you're already likely feeling in your daily life. Maybe it shows up when you leave the grocery store with fewer bags for the same amount of money or even more than before, or when bill at the gas pump forces you to cut back elsewhere. Maybe you passed on steaks for the 4th of July and settled for burgers and hot dogs instead. And these are not just abstract statistics. They're living realities that erode our resilience. The difference now is that strain is not followed by recovery, but by more strain layered on top of political division and social unrest. And that means that we cannot count on relief coming soon. What we can do is adapt by building margin into our budgets, reducing debt, and stocking up on essentials when possible. The choices that you make now will decide how well you endure the pressures ahead. Are you already feeling the economic strain, or do you see it growing on the horizon? Let us know what you're seeing in the comments below. The crumbling dream. The third sign of collapse is the unraveling of housing. The American dream of homeownership is really slipping away from many people. Sky-high prices, limited supply, and record rent hikes have trapped millions into unstable housing. Evictions, they are climbing, and younger generations wonder if they're ever going to even own a home. And what some dismiss as a housing market cycle is actually the collapse of stability itself. And for many with stable mortgages or manageable rents, these struggles, they can seem distant. And it is easy to tune out headlines about rising evictions, overcrowded apartments, or families doubling up just to survive. But when securing housing becomes out of reach for so many, the security of society itself is at risk. When people no longer feel anchored to where they live or the communities around them, they stop feeling invested in the society itself. And when people feel like they have nothing left to lose, they're more inclined to be willing to burn it down. The numbers are stark. In 2023, over 22 million renter households were cost burdened, paying more than 30% of their income for housing. Low-income renters and renters of color were hit hardest. Affordable rental homes are vanishing, leaving a national shortage in the millions. In 2024, homelessness reached record highs, rising 18% in just a single year, with chronic homelessness nearly doubling since 2016. And at the same time, homeownership is increasingly out of reach for middle and low-income families. Housing insecurity, it ripples outward. It undermines health, education, and mobility while fueling resentment and distrust. And it frays the bonds that hold communities together. And when people can't find a secure place to live, they're unable to build stable lives. And we've seen this before. In the early 1900s, families crowded into cramped tenements with poor sanitation and little safety. But America at that time, it was a nation on the upswing, fueled by rapid industrial growth, abundant resources, and a belief in upward mobility. And people, they endure those hardships because they believe things would get better. Today, we're not that country. Growth, it is slowing, inequality is widening, and many no longer feel the future is going to offer them anything. Ignoring the housing collapse is not an option. It's a warning flashing bright that the foundation beneath America is cracking. And unless addressed, this instability will magnify the pressures tearing at our society and push it deeper into collapse. What does this mean to us? Housing insecurity is not just about higher rents or tougher mortgages. It changes how people see themselves in relation to their country. And when people no longer feel anchored to where they live, they stop feeling invested in the society around them, and that detachment breeds resentment and anger. If you still have housing security, I would encourage you not to take it for granted. Strengthen your position now, reduce debt where possible, and build ties with those around you. If you can secure stability or downsize on your own terms, it's better to do so before it becomes a forced move. Housing is not just shelter, it is a sense of belonging, and this sense of belonging is what keeps societies from unraveling completely. Do you see this instability in your own community? Are people around you being priced out, doubling up, or moving away? Share your experiences in the comments below. Fractured communities. The fourth sign of collapse is social fragmentation. And while much of America goes about daily life, the ties that once bound communities together, they're weakening. People are more isolated, less connected with neighbors, and many of the traditional sources of support, such as unions, churches, and civic groups, they've shrunk or they've fractured. And this erosion does not just mean fewer social gatherings. It means fewer opportunities for connection, mutual aid, and trust. And the result is a society where more people feel alone, disconnected, and suspicious of those around them. Research shows that these divisions, they often fall along lines of education, race, geography, and class. Many Americans without college degrees, they live in what sociologists call civic deserts, areas where few public spaces or organizations that can bring people together, compared to college graduates that have smaller networks, fewer close friends, and less access to support when they need it. That isolation fuels resentment and alienation and deepening the sense that society has left them behind. And this fragmentation really magnifies mistrust, and political and cultural disputes, they spill into daily life, dividing families, workplaces, and neighborhoods. And where disagreements once stayed in the political arena, today they often become personal and hostile. Social media compounds the problem by amplifying outrage and pushing people into separate realities. The more fragmented we become, the harder it is to cooperate or act together in times of crisis. America has faced bitter divisions before, including conflicts over race, labor, and class. Yet those earlier struggles were often offset by a sense of shared purpose, whether it was recovering from war, expanding civil rights, or building economic growth. Institutions such as unions, churches, and community organizations, though imperfect, have really anchored people in a broader national project. That cohesion does not exist today. The country lacks a unifying mission, and many no longer believe in the institutions that once mediated conflict. And this is what makes today's fragmentation more dangerous. Without strong social bonds, resilience, it erodes. Neighbors become less likely to help neighbors. Disputes are more likely to escalate into unrest, and survival shifts toward every person for themselves. Social fragmentation, it's quieter than economic strain or political breakdown, but it is just as destructive. It is the slow fraying of the fabric that holds society together. Once it unravels, collapse is close behind. So what does this mean to us? Social fragmentation is not about political shouting matches. It shows up in the quiet ways that we have grown detached from one another. Most of us do not know the farmer who grew our vegetables, the butcher who cut our meat, the driver who delivered it, or the captain of the ship that carried it here. Up and down the supply chain, across our infrastructure, and throughout our communities, we're more connected digitally than at any time in history, yet we're more disconnected from the real people who make our lives possible. And that lack of connection, it really erodes trust and it weakens our communities at the very moment that we need them most. The challenge for us is clear. Will we continue to live in isolation, or will we take steps to rebuild trust and connection with those around us? Do you see this fragmentation in your own life? Are you more connected to your fellow Americans or more divided? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Systemic fragility. The fifth sign of collapse is systemic fragility. Every modern nation relies on complex systems to maintain daily life: power grids, hospitals, transportation, communication, supply chains. And when those systems weaken, people quickly discover how thin the margin of stability really is. In America, that margin is already fraying. Earlier in our history, when infrastructure was thin, people were used to doing without and solving problems locally. And the nation was still building, so shortcomings were expected. But today we are no longer building. Instead, we are watching infrastructure buckle under pressure. And unlike past generations, we're completely dependent on fragile inconveniences that leave us exposed when they fail. The power grid is one of the clearest examples. In the summer of 2025, severe storms knocked out power for more than 1 million people across Missouri, Illinois, Indiana, and Ohio. Heat waves, they strained the grid and triggered rolling blackouts in cities including New York, Philadelphia, and Chicago. And these outages are signs of an aging grid under extreme weather and rising demand. The Department of Energy warns that without urgent upgrades, blackout hours could increase 100-fold by 2030 as outdated equipment, harsher storms, and growing energy use from technology and data centers converge into the perfect storm. The fissures in every system, they are growing. Hospitals and healthcare networks are stretched to the breaking point. Staff shortages create long waits and sometimes delayed or denied care. Essential medications and supplies, they are often backordered or missing altogether. And families who once trusted the system now worry about whether help will be there when they need it the most. Supply chains, the backbone of food, medicine, and daily goods, have shown their fragility again and again. We've all seen empty shelves and shipping delays. Even short disruptions expose just how vulnerable we are to the systems that we assume will always function. And supply and demand equations, they are all pointing to the fact that inventory some retailers and manufacturers built up before tariffs are running out. So the supply for nearly everything is about to become critically low, with a corresponding jump in price and reduction of on-the-shelf inventory for you and me. History shows that when societies reach this stage, fragility compounds collapse. Rome's aqueducts, they fell into disrepair, trade routes became unsafe, and public health eroded. And what had seemed endless and reliable suddenly failed, and people had no choice but to adapt locally or perish. America is not there yet, but the cracks are growing wider. So what does this mean to us? System fragility is something that you've probably already felt. Maybe you waited hours in an emergency room, found your prescription unavailable, or lost power during a storm or heat wave. And these are not just minor inconveniences, they are previews of what wider failure is going to look like. The truth is, we cannot count on government or corporations to fix these problems before they worsen. The real question is, how ready are you when the power goes out or the shelves are empty? Do you have backups for power, water, and medicine? Are you prepared for interruptions that last not hours, but days and even weeks? Share your thoughts in the comments section below. Giveaway. This week's winner is going to receive backup power emergency light bulbs. Effortlessly ensure your light sources when the power goes out. All you have to do to participate in the giveaway is just simply comment on the video, give it a thumbs up, and complete the form. Link in the description and comment section below. Giving the video a thumbs up helps us to spread the prepping message even further. Also, you need to complete the form to be eligible, and that's how we randomly pick a winner and contact you. The information is only accessible to our team here at Sitting Prepping. And using a random selection tool, we'll choose a winner from the entrance and reach out to you via the email that you provided on the submitted form. So congrats to our last giveaway winner for the Elite Gourmet Food Dehydrator, Heidi Paradise. We're going to reach out to you shortly to get that sent to you. So as always, I like to try to do on the end of these videos, I like to share about what I'm working on and try to give you a word of encouragement. This past week, or rather 2 days ago, when you watch this video on Wednesday, we went to Los Angeles in the South Central, and we saw a property in suburbia, the front yard. They converted about 4,000 square feet into a full vertical grow and hydroponics, terraponics system, and they're feeding a good portion of their neighborhood with nutrient-dense food. And it was really fascinating. I'll do a video probably in the next week or two talking about that, what we learned. We did an interview with their team, and it's really fascinating. They are essentially doing what we're trying to learn here on this channel, how to take a small backyard suburban environment and really maximize it for food production. We released a course a couple of months ago here on the channel called our Suburban Preppers Homestead, and we're going to be essentially building out phase 2 and 3 over the next year, and we're going to be taking a lot of the lessons that we learned at places like that and bring that in to maximize the growing space so you can produce a lot of food. And again, I think they feed up to like 20 or 30 families weekly with the food they produce in that yard. And again, it's a fascinating system, and we'll do a video on that here pretty soon. Again, I know today the information, it was heavy. This video is a little different than our normal news format because when I'm pulling back here lately, I decided to do this video for this reason is, it's every now and then I like to take a very, how should I say, sobering look at what's going on. And it informs how I'll prepare, because for many of us that are conscious of what's happening, collapse aware, whatever you want to call it, it's sobering and it can be heavy sometimes. But, knowing and being present and being conscious and being realistic, it allows you to make decisions on how you're going to prepare. And while we walk through these 5 clear signs that America is already in the early stages of collapse, covering, political breakdown, economic strain, housing instability, fractured communities, and fragile systems, these are not just abstract concepts or realities that we're all living in with different ways. And while it's sobering to acknowledge what's happening, it's also empowering, because naming the problem, it gives us clarity to act. And collapse doesn't mean the end of everything. It means transformation. And the question is whether we meet it unprepared and swept along, or with foresight and resilience. In every step that you take today, whether that's building your pantry, reducing your debt, strengthening relationships, securing backup power and water, it really creates margin for tomorrow. And I want to emphasize that again. By doing these things, it gives us a buffer. It gives us a margin. So if anything happens, we're not caught with our pants down. So my encouragement is, don't wait for the headlines to get worse before you act. Let me just point out that we can get into panic mode. And this is why I want to emphasize this here, because in this community, we can get caught up in the fear, the panic, and oh my gosh, the sky is falling. And that's why I try to be so careful on this channel to take it a calm approach, because I'm like, we've got enough stress to deal with. Let's just look at it with clear, open eyes. And again, urgency does not mean panic. It means purposeful preparation. And if history has taught us anything, it's that those who endure are those who did not ignore the warning signs. And you still have time, but that window is closing with each day. So take action while you can, and remember, you're not alone in this. Together, we can face what's coming with calm, courage, and readiness. I highly suggest you watch these 2 videos here on the side of the screen. The first is things are about to get more difficult, but here's the solution. Because at this point, you still have options, although that window is closing. Then watch 6 fears that keep most preppers stuck, because the time to prepare for this uncertain future is today. And I'm going to link to both of these in the comments and description section below, and again here on the side of the screen. As always, stay safe out there.